Hello everybody. Today we are going to discover a new way to run the GIMP image editor using something which is called an AppImage. An AppImage is a package for Linux distributions that works pretty much like packages for Windows or OS X. It provides the latest version of the software without the need of installing additional things with your package manager. And so it allows to run a GIMP in the latest version, even on all the distributions which have all the libraries and all dependencies. And the user does not have to bother to update the libraries, update the packages. All is needed is to download the package and run it, as we will see. So first of all, you have to navigate to this web page. The easiest way is to search for the title on the web. And then here you have the direct link to the AppImage package. Then you right click and you save it on your disk. And I did it already for you. I saved it in an applications folder, but this is just for convenience. You can save it anywhere on the disk because in fact the package is not really installed, it's just copied. And now the last step is to make this file executable like this by clicking on this option here, or if you are more used to the command line, you can do chmod a+x and the name of the file. And at this point, the file can be executed as any other binary, so we can go back to the file manager and double click on the file. The first time you run it, or whenever you run a new version of the package, it will ask whether you want to install the desktop file and provide the desktop integration. And I highly recommend you to do that. We will see in a moment why. So I click here on yes. And then GIMP fires up. And now I will close it for a moment, just to show you that if we go now to the graphics section of your applications menu, there is a new item which appears and which allows to run GIMP from this AppImage as any other application that is installed on your system. But in fact, we did not install anything. We just downloaded a file from the internet, and this AppImage file in fact contains not only GIMP but all the libraries which are needed to run GIMP, which are used independently from what you have on your system in a completely separate way. But there is also another way to use the AppImage. You can go to some folder with images and right click on one of them, and again you will have now this AppImage as an option to open the file. And if we do that, then GIMP fires up and opens the image as usual, as if it was the GIMP installed from your package manager. Now, in this AppImage that we are providing, there are a few interesting additional plugins that are included by default, and which I want to describe quickly now. So first of all, let's see a plugin which is called Resynthesizer and which has a very nice tool called Heal Selection. So for example, let's suppose that in your image you have some detail that you want to remove. Then I can, for example, take the lasso tool and select it like this. And then I go to Filters, Enhance, Heal Selection. I'm using the default values for the filter. I hit OK, and the detail disappears. So we can see the before and after comparison. This is a very convenient way to remove little details that are disturbing in your picture, in your pictures. A second plugin that I want to describe and introduce is the so-called Liquid Rescale plugin, which is found in the layer menu. This plugin can be described as a content-aware resizing, and we will see in a moment how it works. So first let's duplicate this image just to be able to compare the results, and then I go back to my original image and I will stretch it horizontally. So I will make it larger in the horizontal direction like this. Yeah? And as you can see, the full image has been stretched, including the butterfly and the flower. Now let's try to do the same with the Liquid Rescale plugin. I go here and I do exactly the same. I stretch it horizontally, and now I hit OK. And bam! Can you see the difference? This is a normal rescaling, and this is a liquid rescaling. In fact, what happens is that the regions of the image which are rich of features are preserved, and all the background, which is basically featureless, gets stretched. And so the proportions of the image have been changed, but the main subject has remained practically unchanged and still natural. So this is a very convenient way to, for example, change a little bit the proportions of an image if you really need to fit into a given aspect ratio and you don't want to crop it for any reason. Now let's close this and go back to our original image. The last plugin that is included in this bundle and that I want to introduce is called the PhotoFlow. And this plugin, which can be found here in filters. No, sorry, I was also forgetting about GIMP. GIMP is a very famous collection of filters and image processing tools that provides a lot of options, as you can see. And I will not go into the details of GIMP because it contains really hundreds of filters, and there are specific web pages to describe it. But you have to know that it is already included, and it's working out of the box as soon as you have installed this AppImage package. Now let's talk a little bit about the PhotoFlow plugin. This plugin has two functionalities. One is to do some non-destructive editing and apply some filters, a little bit like the GIMP plugin, but we will soon see the difference. And the other one is to allow to open from within GIMP raw images. Yeah? So for example, here I'm selecting a NAF file from my camera, from the same butterfly. And now if I tell the AppImage to open it, what happens is that GIMP realizes that the file is not recognized by GIMP itself, and it starts a PhotoFlow to process the raw file. And here you can see the interface of this plugin. And now if I hit on the OK button, the processed raw image will be sent back to GIMP as a new GIMP image, like this. But in fact, the PhotoFlow plugin did not only send the image data back to GIMP, but also all the processing parameters used to convert the raw file into the image that we see here. Which means that now if I select this layer and run PhotoFlow again, and I tell it to still edit the layer that we have just created. Then PhotoFlow will be launched again. It will read again the same raw file, and it will allow to further tweak the raw processing parameters. For example, if I double click here on the raw developer, I can change the white balance. I can increase the exposure because the picture was a bit dark. I can, for example, remove some of the hot pixels that my camera has, and I can also change here the way the colors of the raw file are rendered in the final image. And now we can send this back to GIMP. And as you can see, now the background layer has been updated, and also the processing parameters for the raw file have been updated. And now we can go further, because this plugin can not only be used to process raw images, but also to process any given layer in GIMP. So if I go again to Filters PhotoFlow, and this time I tell it to create a new layer, what it will do is to take the pixel data from the layer that was selected and use it as a starting point for some further editing. And now, for example, I can add some curve to put some more contrast to this image, like this, and maybe. And I can also, like this, add some more saturation. And it's also possible to associate opacity masks to the different layers by double clicking in this little white square. And now, for example, we can select this flower and butterfly with some smooth region. Like this. And restrict the increase of saturation to the butterfly and the flower, and keep the rest to its original saturation, as you can see here. So this is an example. Now we can send again the data back to GIMP. And we have now a new layer which contains the result of this additional editing step. So this was the original image, and now we have this. And we can, for example, now we inspect it, and what we realize is that, well, the butterfly is nice, but we just forgot to put some sharpening to the image to get some more detail out of the butterfly. But then with this layer selected, I can again run a PhotoFlow, and this time I tell it to edit the current layer. Yeah? We will not create again a new layer, but we will edit the layer we just created, like this. And what happens is that the plugin gets again the image pixels from the previous layer and reapplies all the steps. And now we can, for example, add some sharpening, like this. And now let's see the effect on the butterfly. We can reduce a little bit the opacity, just to reduce a little bit the effect, and we send it back. And here is the final result, a much sharper image. Now, if we are satisfied with the result, we can save this file as a GIMP file, like this. And in the saving process, not only the pixel data of the layers will be saved in the XCF file, but also the processing parameters for the raw file and for the second layer that we added, where we increase the contrast and the saturation. And now, if I close this file and if I open it again, and I do the same thing I did before, which is to select the second layer, go to Filters, PhotoFlow, Edit Current, I have back all the parameters that I applied before, and I can, for example, decide that the saturation was a bit too strong and to reduce it a little bit and send the image back. And here is the final result. So I think this is enough for the moment about this, what you can find as additional plugins and additional tools and as AppImage for GIMP. But before finishing this tutorial, I would like to point you back to the web, to this not only to this web page where you find the GIMP package for Linux, but also some equivalent GIMP packages for Windows and for Macintosh, and some additional useful links for raw therapy and for Darktable, and so on and so forth. This page is under constant improvement, and it is part of the forums at pixels.us, and this is a nice place where you can come and where you can ask questions and ask for advices, and you will find a very large community of people that are ready to help, very collaborative and very responsive, and you really have a chance to learn a lot by asking questions or just browsing through the discussions that are ongoing. And this forum is a part of the pixels.us website, where you will find articles and blog posts all centered on photography with free and open source tools. And in particular, here in the article sections, you will find a lot of nice articles about GIMP, Darktable, raw therapy, PhotoFlow, and many other free and open source tools. So I really recommend you to go there and have a look at all the material which is available. So that's all for today. There will be probably more tutorials coming about GIMP, PhotoFlow, and all the rest. Thanks for your attention, and bye-bye.